My name's Brian Steptoe and I'm very keen on promoting the Photobook within the Royal Photographic Society. I've had an interest in photo books, growing interest over the last several years, and I follow the international exhibition scene on photo books. The key point about a photo book is that it's a book with a storyline, a theme, a purpose, which is expanded on by the photography within the book. It's not simply a catalogue of personal images, personal favourites, nor is it an illustrated book where there's a substantial amount of text and points in the text are illustrated with photography. The Shimmer of Possibility by Paul Graham, who has an honorary FRPS, was first published as a series of 10 separate volumes, and this is long out of print and very rare and expensive. It's been replaced by a single copy edition, which has also now become rare. This is the single copy edition of Paul Graham's Shimmer of Possibility, published by Mac Books, and it serves to introduce the two major photo book exhibition events that take place in Europe and travel abroad from Europe. The Paris photo book event is held in conjunction with the photographic exhibition. It takes place in November and travels to Los Angeles in April. It's an event organised in conjunction with Aperture of New York. The Cassell photo book exhibition is solely reserved for what are called dummy books, which are the first copy of a book put together by the author for promotion to a possible publisher for consideration. And Cassell exhibit in various places around Europe, and in 2014 they are showing in Athens, Cologne, Dublin, Madrid, Oslo, Paris, Rome and Sao Paulo in South America. They have a shortlist selection of 50 dummy books and then awards selected from them by a jury. Paris Photo have two sets of book awards, what is called the Photo Book of the Year, and separately the first published photo book. So we've got sort of beginners, as it were, in photo book publishing. Now let's have a look at Shimmer of Possibility in some detail. First is to say each section is separated by a blue divider which simulates the break of the individual volumes, and the first section, a much published photograph of a worker mowing a lawn, more or less an endless mowing arrangement, and some images are large on the page but very many are much smaller. And if I can find the right page here, this is a typical example of a smaller version, and then you run through various sizes and some other related things, or maybe unrelated things, who knows, and finish up with some larger ones. Another section here shows a couple carrying a Pepsi Cola pack along the street and various things that happen on the way. It's a book that's about storyline unfolding as the photographer wanders along the street. Short little excerpts, not particularly with any purpose, but they obviously show a snapshot of daily life in parts of America. Here we have one on the King's Meat Market intersection, and then we move on to one of the most iconic images, in my view, in the book. I should have mentioned that the Paul Graham Shimmer of Possibility book won the top award in the Paris Photobook exhibition in 2011, and he's also the winner of the 2012 Hasselblad Award, the first time it's been won by a British photographer. Now here we have Concresco by David Galliard. It won the first Photobook prize at Paris Photo again, but in 2012. And it's a book about Albania and the bizarre construction of over 800,000 pillboxes across Albania by the dictator Hoxha. And here if you look closely, you will see in the background of the sheep in the field we have a number of these appearing on the landscape and disappearing into the distance. And they're not just in the countryside. Well, here's another one, another set who are in the countryside. See them more clearly here because it's an open field. But interestingly, another feature of the book are interviews with people who've been involved in either constructing these objects or in other historical situations in Albania. And we've got various interviews in a little booklet inserted that's almost completely hidden by virtue of the overprinting. The whole book is displayed in what's called a complete bleed of images. Images cover the 2 pages and go right off to the edge. Very much a style favoured by the Japanese photo book makers. Here we have a more close-up view, but again showing a background. We've obviously got some clothes drying thing there and children playing around in the ruins of the pillbox in this case. And another one actually in, or just about in, a graveyard. Very strange situations we've got here in this book. Motorway construction scene. And some of them are being destructed, pulled down, and some are not. And then at the end we've got a rather longer interview. It tells a bit more background of the whole storyline. Concresco, self-published by David Galliard. I should say that all the 4 books I'm showing in this section feature in the latest 3rd volume of the Martin Parr and Jerry Badger History of Photo Books, and so they've been selected by those authors as particularly noteworthy. This one is Red-Headed Peckerwood. Not a first edition, but because it's the first edition sold out very quickly. Red-Headed Peckerwood is a recreation of a real-life event back in the 1950s involving a girl, a boy, a gun and a fast car, and it's a set of sequence of murders that were carried out in the far west of America. Red-Headed Peckerwood by Christian Patterson was winner at the Rencontre d'Arles photo book and photography exhibition in 2012. And in the book we have an insert which gives the story of the actual real life situation, and it's been recreated with finding locations that correspond to where these things happen, finding actual documents from police files and so on, and incorporating all of those into what is a combination of a factual and a fictional story. And the picture content is intended to evoke the scene, the situations. They move from house to house, carrying out these various gruesome events, and it recreates in your mind the storyline. And some images very much represent the sort of advertising for petrol or gasoline, as you say, over there at the time. Some of the buildings still existed and were found in dereliction. Some were the nearest equivalents that the author could find in the localities where these things happened. As you can see, it's very much metaphorical in parts of violence and so on. And here is the girl, and some records on the back of photographs. In fact, that's probably the back of that particular photograph on that page. So it uses some found work from past files, press files, and police files. And at the end of the book, we have some of the locations where these things were carried out. So that's red-headed peckerwood. Here we have A Period of Juvenile Prosperity by Mike Brodie, which was shortlisted in the shortlisted set for Paris Photo in 2013. It's a large book, as you can see. This is a second edition. Again, the first edition sold out before I knew about it, and it concerns children, well, teenagers, early 20s, from broken homes who are riding on the freight trains across the States and being caught by the police and so on. So quite a gritty, down-to-earth situation. There's a story in the back about the background of the author, who was himself from a broken home, and the photographer of the scenes in the book. And to show a few examples, the introduction page. Now we associate the person with the freight train. Large format book, but the images are generally fairly small on the page. Here we have gaining access, all highly illegal, of course. Showing off that exuberance and daredevil nature of taking a selfie photo, probably at the rear of a train, and you can see the speed, of course. I'd like to say a few things about the criteria that are used in international exhibitions and competitions for selecting the shortlist and the winning photo books from those submitted. Usually these events get a few hundred, 600 to 800 typically, books sent in, and there's a jury of a few people who make a shortlist from that, and then it goes forward to a different jury for final selection. Jury members are often people like curators, writers on photography, and actual publishers or other experts on photo books. Very rarely do they actually include photographers themselves. So the criteria are published on the internet, certainly for Paris Photo and for Cassell, the two major ones, and they basically comprise 4 parts. There's the concept of the book, what it's all about, and the value of the concept. There's the photography in the book and how that relates to the concept and vice versa. There's the editing of the book, the sequencing of pictures, the layout on the pages, and the spreads as you open a pair of pages, how the left hand and the right hand relate, if there are images on both of those. And finally, the actual feel of the book in the hand, the paper, the binding, the cover, and the general quality of the book, again related to the concept. Some books are on newsprint, and some books are on top quality papers. Obviously the way in which the weight of these things is judged by individual selectors varies according to their background, but generally speaking the photography accounts for about 50% of the total value of the assessment, and the other factors together the other half. Now if we look at the winning photo books I've shown, my personal feeling is that the concept, the value of the story, the freshness of the story, whether it's something that's never been done before or something that's never been done in that particular way before, that seems to lift it from being a reasonable submission to an award-winning item. Now the RPS exhibition and competition we plan to run on similar lines. We want to be able to hold our heads high in the international field if we can move forward to that, and as our final judge selector is Jerry Badger, we want him to appreciate that we've tried hard to match those 4 criteria that I've mentioned. Obviously we'll have to cut our cloth according to the submissions we get, but that's our aspiration. Now a few words about what makes a quality photo book. In my view, I always recommend that people wanting to put a book together make a number of small prints of the edited version of the project they're trying to cover, perhaps 100 or so, maybe a few more, and lay those all out on the floor or on a large table and try and juggle them around to see what works with what and what's a reasonable sequence. Get another opinion if you possibly can as well. So many photo books are, I think, in danger of not succeeding as well as they might because the authors rush to use online computer systems to produce the final result before they've actually done enough prior thinking about editing and sequencing. The other criteria, the other suggestions I have for improving quality of photo books are look particularly if you've got text and captions and reduce the depth of colour of those from a dead 100% black to something like 70 or 80%, and that reduces the clash between the strength of the text or caption and the strength of the picture. And so there we have it. We're expecting books to be submitted using the various on-demand production systems. We're not accepting trade-produced, published books, but your own personal books created using any of the available online systems, and with very much welcoming handmade artist books, individual produced books, and we hope we see a selection of those amongst the submissions. So we wish you every success and look forward to seeing a sizable entry for our first 2014 RPS Photobook exhibition.